Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be diving into something that I know a lot of you are really interested in mastering, and that's proactive sales leadership.
Right.
And in particular, how to use the MEDDIC framework to really get ahead of the curve.
Absolutely.
It's about being so prepared that
Yes.
you're almost surfing the future of your market
Right.
instead of just kind of getting wiped out by all those unexpected changes.
Exactly.
So to help us with this today, we're going to be looking at some excerpts from an article.
Okay.
It's called Tech Calais, and it features some really interesting insights from Dr. Ari Masudi,
Oh, yeah, he's great.
who's a deep tech marketing expert,
Yeah.
and then also from Darius Lahudafard, who's a serial tech entrepreneur.
I'm familiar with his work, yeah.
Now, both of these guys have a real knack for spotting those market waves, before they even form.
They really do.
And that's what we're going to try to do here today.
I like.
So I want you to imagine for a second.
Okay.
What if your sales team was consistently landing those huge, those multi-million-dollar contracts,
Right.
while all the other companies out there
Yeah.
are struggling to keep up?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be pretty awesome, right?
Yeah.
But it's not magic.
Now,
It's about being proactive.
it is.
And that's what we're going to dig into today.
Love it.
So let's break this down a little bit.
Okay.
The article highlights some companies that have really nailed this proactive approach. For example, there was this high-tech company.
Yeah.
They saw the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act coming, back in 2009,
Oh, wow.
and they were ready.
So, while other companies were scrambling to adjust, they already had a targeted strategy in place.
Yeah, they were ready to help hospitals use those federal grants for IT up.
They were in the right place at the right time with the right solution.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That kind of foresight, that must have taken serious planning.
Yeah, it wasn't just luck. They were monitoring the macroeconomic landscape,
Right.
and they saw this opportunity emerge.
So it's not even enough to just know your product. You've got to know what's happening in the world,
Exactly.
the bigger picture.
To connect the dots.
Wow.
Another great example is Adobe.
Okay.
They made a huge bet on cloud computing back in 2012.
Yeah.
Changed their entire business model.
I remember that.
A lot of people thought they were crazy at the time.
I did, yeah.
But they had the foresight to see where the market was heading.
Uh-huh.
They invested heavily in things like analytics, and their stock price tripled,
Wow.
and their recurring revenue just exploded.
They rode that wave.
They did.
Are there other companies doing this well?
Well, there's this Asian car maker,
Okay.
and they strategically expanded into India years before the economic boom really hit. They invested in dealer networks in certain areas way ahead of everyone else.
It's like they had a time machine or something.
Yeah.
But seriously, how do we start thinking like
Well, the article talks about three key elements:
Okay.
continuous macroeconomic monitoring,
Okay.
resource commitment,
Mm-hmm.
and then forward-thinking performance metrics.
Okay, let's unpack these.
Yeah.
Continuous macroeconomic monitoring. What does that even mean?
Sounds a bit intimidating, right?
It does, yeah.
Well, it's about consistently keeping tabs on global economic trends.
Okay.
Like, you want to think about tracking things like interest rates, inflation, and currency exchange rates, but also government policies, technological advancements, anything that could impact your industry.
So instead of just looking at our sales numbers,
Yeah.
we're looking at what's happening in the world,
The bigger picture.
connecting the dots.
You got it.
Okay.
And this brings us to resource commitment,
Okay.
which means dedicating the people, the time, and the tools to actually analyze these trends effectively.
So you can't just say macroeconomic monitoring is important and leave it at that. You have to invest.
You have to make it a priority.
Make it part of the company culture.
Exactly.
Okay, I get that.
Good.
But how do we measure success when we're thinking so far ahead?
Well, that's where those forward-thinking performance metrics come in.
Okay.
We need to shift from lagging indicators, the ones that tell us what already happened,
Right.
to leading indicator, which help us predict future success.
Okay, so instead of looking at last quarter's sales figures,
Right.
we should be looking at.
Well, things like market share growth in emerging sectors,
Okay.
engagement with potential customers in new markets,
Mm-hmm.
or even the development of solutions that address future needs.
So looking ahead, not behind.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
But we still need a way to identify those ways of change before they crest.
Right.
How do we even know which trends are worth chasing?
Well, that's where MEDDIC comes in.
Okay.
Think of it as a compass that helps you navigate the complexities of B2B sales, pinpoint those promising opportunities.
All right, so MEDDIC, the article describes it as like a strategic lens.
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
It helps you cut through the clutter
Okay.
and focus on what truly matters in B2B sales.
So where do we start?
Well, it all starts with a simple but profound principle.
Okay.
No champion, no deal.
No champion, no deal. Is that like a sales mantra or something?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
Darius Lahudafard Lahudifard. He's the creator of MEDDIC.
Right.
He's the one who coined that phrase.
Okay.
And he's basically saying that internal advocacy is crucial for a deal to go through.
Oh, so you need someone on the inside within the company to,
Yeah.
who really believes in your solution.
Right.
And is willing to fight for you?
To champion it, yeah.
Okay. So it's about finding that internal cheerleader.
Exactly.
Who's going to open doors to you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like it.
And the MEDDIC framework,
Yeah.
it helps you identify and nurture those champions by breaking down the opportunity assessment into 6 core dimensions.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's break down these dimensions.
All right, the first one is metrics.
Okay.
It's about identifying those quantifiable indicators of success that matter most to your prospect.
Okay.
What are their KPIs, and how will your solution help them achieve their goals?
So you have to go beyond just having a great product.
Right.
You need to show how it aligns with their specific deficits.
Precisely.
Okay, what's next?
Next, we have the economic buyer.
Right.
This is the person who holds the purse strings, the one with the ultimate authority to say yes to the purchase.
So figuring out who that is early on is crucial.
Absolutely.
Got it.
You need to understand their motivations, their priorities, what matters most to them when making a buying decision.
Makes sense. What's the next dimension?
Decision criteria.
Okay.
This is all about understanding the specific factors your prospect will use to evaluate potential solutions. They might prioritize things like cost, ease of implementation, integration with existing systems, or a whole host of other things.
So it's about tailoring your pitch to their needs.
Yes.
Highlighting how you meet those criteria better than anyone else.
Exactly.
Okay, what's next?
Next up is the decision process.
All right.
It's like mapping out the internal roadmap for how the decision will be made within the company. Who are the stakeholders?
Right.
What are the approval stages?
Yeah.
What are the potential roadblocks?
So you're not just selling to one person, you're selling to a whole team.
A whole team.
You need to understand those dynamics.
Their internal dynamic.
Got it.
Okay, then we have identify pain.
Okay.
This is where you really dig deep.
All right.
Understand the challenges your prospect is facing and how that pain is impacting their business.
Show empathy.
Empathy is crucial.
Show that you get it.
That you truly understand their situation.
Speak their language.
Speak their language.
Yeah.
And finally, we come back to the champion.
Ah, yes.
This is the person within the prospect's organization who really believes in your solution.
Right.
And is willing to be your advocate.
Yeah.
They open doors for you. They vouch for you.
They help you navigate the complexities.
They're your guide.
Okay, so by exploring these 6 MEDDIC dimensions, you're essentially creating a blueprint for success,
That's
right?
exactly right.
You're gaining a deep understanding of the opportunity.
Yes.
You can tailor your strategy.
You're moving from a scattershot approach
All right.
to a laser-focused strategy.
And that leads to higher close rates, more accurate forecasts,
Right.
predictable pipeline.
You're qualifying the right deals.
Yeah.
Approaching them with a clear understanding.
This is great stuff.
It is.
But I'm curious, what happens when, this carefully crafted landscape shifts?
That's a great question.
Like, what happens when a completely unexpected trend emerges?
Well, that brings us to the exciting evolution of the MEDDIC framework.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting.
It does.
I know Lahudifard proposes additional dimensions to adapt MEDDICs to today's dynamic environment.
He does.
All right, what are they?
Well, first up is competitive intelligence.
Okay.
Now, this goes way beyond just knowing who your competitors are and what they offer.
So it's not just about comparing features and benefits
Definitely not.
on a spreadsheet.
No.
Okay.
It's about understanding the competitive landscape in a much more dynamic and predictive way.
Okay, give me an example. How would this work?
Okay, let's say you're selling software solutions.
Right.
Competitive intelligence would involve tracking emerging startup, analyzing their funding rounds, really getting a grasp on those innovative solutions that they're developing.
So you're not just focused on who you're competing with today.
Right.
You're looking ahead.
You're looking ahead to see who your competition might be tomorrow.
Wow.
You're analyzing their strategies,
Okay.
identifying both threats and opportunities.
It's like having a radar system
It is.
that picks up on blips on the horizon.
Before they even appear on the map.
That's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah, this kind of foresight
Yeah.
allows you to adapt your strategy
Right.
before the landscape changes dramatically.
I can already see how valuable that would. Okay, what's the next dimension?
Technological signals.
Okay.
This is about paying attention to emerging technology, research trends. You want to anticipate potential market disruptions before they happen.
So you're trying to get a sense of how new technologies might impact your industry.
Right. Think about the rise of artificial intelligence
Okay.
or blockchain technology.
Yeah.
By tracking these developments,
Yeah, right.
you can position your company to be a leader in adopting these technologies.
That would give you a serious edge.
It would.
What's next?
Ecosystem mapping.
Okay.
This is about understanding the interconnectedness of all the players in your market,
Okay.
not just your direct competitors.
So we're talking about
Startups.
startup.
Established companies,
Okay.
venture capitalists,
Right.
research institutions.
Wow, the whole network.
The whole network.
So you're not just understanding your own company.
Right.
You're understanding the entire playing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then we have global economic indicators.
Wait, didn't we already talk about monitoring the macroeconomic landscape?
We did.
How's this different?
Well, this is more focused.
Okay.
You're specifically looking at how global economic trends, geopolitical events, and regulatory changes might directly impact your sales opportunity.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Let's say you're selling products in a region that's experiencing political instability
Okay.
or facing new trade barriers.
Right.
You need to understand these factors
Right.
so you can adapt your strategy and mitigate risk.
So thinking globally.
Thinking globally
Understanding that what happens on the other side of the world can impact you.
can have a ripple effect.
Yeah, okay.
And finally, we have demographic and behavioral trends.
This sounds like something that everyone in sales should be paying attention to.
It is.
So what is it?
It's about understanding how evolving customer behaviors, generational shifts, and emerging consumer preferences might impact your sales approach.
Recognizing that your target audience constantly changing.
Constantly changing.
And you need to adapt.
Adapt or die. Think about the rise of millennials and Gen Z as consumers.
Yeah.
They have different values, expectations, buying habits compared to previous generations.
Right.
You can't use the same sales tactics that worked 10 years ago.
Right. You'll fall behind.
Exactly.
So by adding these 5 dimensions to the MEDDIC framework,
Yeah.
you're creating a much more complete picture.
A much more complete picture.
It's like having a panoramic lens
It is.
that lets you see everything.
Big picture, small details, everything in between.
This is incredible.
It is.
But how do we avoid information overload?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it leads us to one of the most important aspects of proactive sales leadership, knowing how to filter and prioritize information.
Okay.
And we're going to dig into that in part 2 of this dive.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So before the break, we were talking about how the MEDDIC framework has evolved with these new dimensions to help us stay ahead of the game in sales. But I got to admit, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed just thinking about all this information we need to gather.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to take in. But remember, the goal isn't to ground in data. It's about being strategic with your information gathering.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we filter all this information and make sure we're focusing on, what's actually...
Well, one of the most effective strategies is to start by clearly defining your target audience and understanding their specific needs and pain points.
So before we even start gathering all this competitive intelligence or mapping out the ecosystem, we need to really understand who we're selling.
Exactly. Once you have that solid grasp on your ideal customer profile, then you can focus your information gathering efforts on areas that are most relevant to them.
Okay, so it's like having a filter that helps you sift through all the noise and identify the signals that matter most.
Precisely. So, for example, if you're selling software to financial institutions, you'll want to pay close attention to regulatory changes in that industry. Emerging fintech trends, the specific challenges that banks and investment firms are facing.
Yeah.
You don't need to be an expert in every industry, just the ones that align with your target market.
So it's about being selective and strategic.
Right.
Not just trying to absorb everything.
Exactly. Another key strategy is to leverage technology to automate some of the data collection and analysis.
Okay, now this is where I get excited. There are so many incredible tools out there that can help us track trends, monitor competitors, analyze market data.
Absolutely. Tools like Google Trends, social listening platforms, even some of those AI-powered market intelligence platforms, they can be incredibly valuable.
So we can set up alerts for specific keywords,
Right.
track competitor mentions, even get insights into emerging trends.
Before they become mainstream.
That's cool.
And this frees up your time and energy to focus on what you do best, building relationships, crafting those compelling sales strategies, and closing deals.
I love the idea of using technology to work smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
It's about maximizing efficiency and effectiveness.
Another important tip is to cultivate a network of trusted advisors and mentors who can provide insights and guidance.
Yeah, this is where networking and building relationships within your industry really pays off.
You got it. Connect with industry experts, analysts, thought leaders, people who can offer those valuable perspectives.
It's like having an insider's view of what's happening.
Precisely. And don't underestimate the power of peer-to-peer learning.
Oh, you mean connecting with other sales leaders, sharing best practice.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Iron sharpens iron.
It does. Joining industry associations, attending conferences, participating in online forums.
Yeah.
These things can provide incredible opportunities.
I mean, this is starting to feel more manageable now. We're not just flailing around in a sea of information. We're actually using tools, strategies, our network to kind of navigate it effectively.
That's the idea. Proactive sales leadership isn't about knowing everything. It's about knowing where to find the information you need and how to interpret it effectively.
I love that. So we've talked about how to avoid information overload, but let's get back to the MEDDIC framework.
Okay.
How can we actually start incorporating expanded dimensions, our
Well, it all starts with making a conscious decision to integrate MEDDIC into your sales methodology and your team's work.
Okay, so it's not just something we talk about in meetings. It needs to be woven into the fabric of how we do.
Exactly. You can start by incorporating MEDDIC questions into your discovery calls, sales presentations.
So instead of just asking generic questions like, what are your pain points? Right.
We're digging deeper into those specific MEDDIC dimensions.
Right. For example, when exploring the metrics dimension, you might ask, what are your key performance indicators for this project? Or how will you measure success?
Right.
When exploring decision criteria, you might ask, what are the most important factors you'll be considering when evaluating potential solutions?
So it's about asking the right question to really uncover that information that's going to help us qualify the opportunity, tailor our approach.
Exactly. You can also use the MEDDIC framework to create targeted sales content, marketing material.
So instead of sending, generic brochures or presentations, we're actually developing materials that address the specific needs and challenges
of each prospect
based on their MEDDIC profile.
Precisely. This level of personalization can make a huge difference in how you're messaging.
Yeah, I could see how that would be so much more effective than a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah. So we're using MEDDIC to gather information, qualify opportunities, tailor our messaging, and ultimately, increase our chances of closing them. But what about after the sale? Does MEDDIC have a role to play in customer retention account?
That's a great question. And it brings us to one of the often overlooked benefits of the MEDDIC framework, its application in account management and customer success.
Okay.
And we're going to explore that in more detail in part 3 of this dive.
Awesome. Can't wait. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking all about how to use the MEDDIC framework to become, a really proactive sales leader, which means really thinking ahead, anticipating those changes instead of just, reacting to them.
Right.
And before the break, we touched on something really interesting, how MEDDIC can actually be applied beyond just closing that initial sale.
Right. It's true.
So I'm really intrigued by this. How does MEDDIC help us build those, strong customer relationship?
Well, remember those 6 core dimensions of MEDDIC.
I do, yeah.
Metrics, economic buyer, decision criteria, decision process, identify pain, and champion. Those insights don't just disappear once the deal is signed.
Right.
They actually become even more valuable as you move into those account management and customer success phases.
So we're not just throwing that MEDDIC information away after the sale.
No.
We're using it to nurture the relationship.
Exactly. So, for example, understanding your customer's metrics helps you track their progress toward their goals.
Okay.
Identify areas where you can provide additional support or value. Knowing who the economic buyer is allows you to stay connected with that key decision maker and ensure their ongoing satisfaction.
That makes sense.
And understanding the decision process, that helps you anticipate any potential roadblocks or challenges that might pop up down the road.
It's like having a roadmap.
It is.
For navigating that customer journey.
Yeah, even after the initial sale.
That's a great analogy.
And by continuing to engage with your champion within the customer's organization, you can stay informed about their evolving needs.
Okay.
And identify opportunities for upselling or cross-selling.
So MEDDIC becomes a tool not just for acquiring customers, but for retaining them.
Yes.
And growing those accounts.
It's the whole pack.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together.
Good.
But how do we actually use MEDDIC to drive those, account growth opportunities?
One really effective strategy is to conduct regular MEDDIC reviews
Okay.
with your existing customers.
Okay. What does that look like?
Well, it's similar to the initial MEDDIC qualification process.
Okay.
But instead of focusing on closing a new deal,
Right.
you're focusing on deepening that existing relationship and identifying areas for expansion.
So we're revisiting those 6 MEDDIC dimensions.
Exactly.
But this time we're applying them to the customer's current future goals.
Their future goals. Exactly.
Got it.
You might ask questions like, what are your biggest challenges right now? Or what are your top priorities for the next year?
So you're essentially conducting a mini MEDDIC assessment.
You are.
To identify those opportunities where you can provide additional value.
That's the idea.
Makes a lot of sense.
It's about being proactive
in
understanding their evolving needs.
Instead of waiting for them to come to us problem. And by aligning your solutions with their current pain points, strategic objectives,
You got it.
you can position yourself as a trusted advisor, a partner.
Not just a vendor.
Huge difference.
It is.
Building that relationship, trust and mutual benefit.
Absolutely. That's what leads to long-term loyalty.
Right.
Repeat business, sustainable growth.
This has been incredible.
Yes.
Really enjoyed this deep dive into the world of proactive sales leadership, the power of the MEDDIC framework.
Powerful stuff.
I feel like I've learned so much. That I can apply to my own work.
I'm glad.
So thank you so much for joining me today.
It's been a pleasure.
And for everyone listening,
Yeah?
remember, The future belongs to those who anticipate it, actively shape it to their advantage.
Absolutely.
So keep exploring.
Keep learning.
Keep learning.
And keep pushing those boundaries.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive
Sounds good.
into a fascinating topic
Looking forward to it.
to help you stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Until then, keep pushing those boundaries.
Yeah. See you next time.